Hey, welcome everybody. So today we're just doing some Christmas songs, but particularly with an eye for solo and performance. So this is a time when a lot of people end up having or getting to do performances of various kinds. And if you're not someone who performs regularly, it can kind of come as a shock. And so I'm going to go over kind of like some of the really big ones that tend to be solos as far as Christmas carols go, and really just kind of discuss some of like the tips and tricks in terms of like being able to do this effectively, um, and just again like singing through some of the carols so that we get familiar with them. So the big one being "Oh Holy Night" is the one that I think tends to be one of the more challenging solos to sing. So that's "Oh Holy Night." So I'm going to go over that one in particular first. But a lot of these things will cross over, and we can also just talk about like stage nerves. A lot of the times, like when we're doing these kinds of Christmas solos in like a bigger venue, like an eve service, or in a church. One of the first things that's really challenging is getting used to singing in a bigger space. So if you're a contemporary singer, I mean, a lot of times we do have mics, but just being in a big space can be tricky, and it changes the way that you think about your voice, and you have to really utilize resonance a lot more. The temptation is to want to like push and sing louder. We often also have like an organ or like trumpets, these really big instruments that you can't really compete with ultimately. Timpani, drums, full string quartets. Like there's a lot. A violin is going to be louder than your voice. Um, so there's a temptation to want to push a lot on you know it, Christmas Eve services, things where you're happy holidays. Yeah, I know it's crazy how time flies, and here we are again. And it's a great way to sort of mark out time is all of us. And it's funny, right? Again, like we'll be off for a week or two, and then back to regular things. It's not like the new year is that far away. Um, but this is a good time to start talking about some of these solo practices that we want. And one of the big ones is just being really mindful of not pushing. Yeah, exactly. I imagine, right? If you're someone who sings, you're probably doing some performances. There's various kinds of solos. But the first thing we're talking about is just like the space and really being able to acknowledge being in a big space and what that does with your voice. We want to think actually just more resonance rather than trying to like push harder. So this is why we end up getting sometimes a more open kind of sound. And I don't mean open like as in like that kind of bad way that we sometimes do when we're trying to belt too hard or have bad vocal technique. But we just want to think about more release right in the back, behind our back molars, our pharynx, our head, and our neck. Um, so it's actually really helpful to have that good alignment. Like I always tell people when we're dealing with breath support, and I'm going to go over Oh Holy Night in a second and really talk about some of these concepts. When we're dealing with breath support, it's most important that we just have a low, deep connection to our breath, but we don't need to over breathe. We don't need to take these like big Herculean, like heroic breaths. In fact, sometimes we tend to over prepare our breath when we're going for a high note, and we end up doing something differently from everything else we're doing. And really, the voice has a lot. It's a lot more to do with the stability. So think about it like if you can find a good footing, your relationship to the ground, getting really comfortable and paying attention to like, are you leaning to one side? Are you feeling like ungrounded or like a little woozy and unstable? Like you want to practice actually your ability just to stand with ease and just in a relaxed way, and then breathe just deeply in a relaxed way, right? We're never trying to pull in too much excess air. So just when you think of breath support, think more about your stability. And that's going to be really helpful. And actually, like kind of shifting your weight and playing around with this can be really helpful when you're working on high notes rather than just trying to like push them out more and more. And the reason I bring this up is a lot of people, their voice gets tired around this season, right? Because it's sometimes drier. We have illnesses going around, right? And we tend to do a lot of singing in a big space. And so you just really want to be mindful of your endurance leading up to your performances. So sometimes, like, with a song like "Oh Holy Night," the temptation is just to try to hit that high note over and over again because it's the nature of this type of song. This is why I wanted to talk about like performance solos and Christmas solos in particular. "Oh Holy Night" being one of like the big ones. Like I do this one often. I'm doing it this year in a few days, and it's like the lights go down low. There's trumpet, there's organ, everyone's holding candles. It's just like a moment where you could easily like spiral and overthink it. And so the temptation again is to try and make it more and to push, and that's usually when we flinch up. And I have done this before. Like it is like a rite of passage as singers when you're dealing with high notes, and you might like your best performances might be in the shower or like the day before or that morning when you're trying it out over and over again. And rather than focusing and worrying about the high note, focus on the stability of your voice, and just try to find release and resonance. So when I'm doing this kind of solo voice, and I'm going to do this, this is kind of like the classical Christmas voice. So it's a little more on that classical kind of side, but you don't need to push. I think sometimes people tend to over engage with a lot of these solos, and I just remind myself that like what is the energy behind what we're singing. We exactly, you might like over engage your breath support, and our breath support is largely actually a subconscious process. So we want to be able to practice and find stability through release, that feeling of not pushing or trying to compensate. That usually means that something is out of balance. It can be as simple as actually our posture and our strength in our actual like ability to stand evenly and comfortably. That's why that really matters. It's not that we have to have a perfectly rigid posture. It's just that we have to have a posture where there isn't like a backup, or we're holding, or we're kind of asleep on one side of our body. Um, and so again, what I think about with these songs is really like it's supposed to be this sort of like awe, um, inspiring kind of thing. It's supposed to be loving, right? So I just think of this as like, right, celebration of like this birth, right? And so it's actually kind of there's a tenderness. And so even when I'm doing a big sing, I try to like keep some of that tenderness. And the other sort of pro tip that I would say is use the lilt or the rhythm to your advantage, meaning that like a lot of these songs, because they're about like Christ being born, it's like they're often lullabies. They are in a 3/4 or a 6/8 pattern. So like this "Oh Holy Night" thing is like a 6/8 or a 12/8 if you're doing the old school way. Um, you kind of think of it either way. That's the original sort of arrangement, right? And so what you want to think is actually use that lilt so that you're not over singing certain parts of the phrase, finding the moments where you're leaning into your voice and where you can actually find some breath recovery. So here's the first part, right? So if I'm doing "Oh Holy Night" and I'm like, "Oh holy night, the stars are brightly shining." The idea is like I'm trying to find these moments where I sustain, right? "Oh holy night." That's where I'm singing more than "Oh holy night, the stars are brightly shine." If I keep it like that and I'm singing every single um sort of upswing, "Oh holy night." If I go "holy night," I'm already bringing weight into my voice. So these kinds of things will actually affect us later on. So the first thing I'm trying to do is just trying to get into that lilt, trying to find the nice sort of rocking sensation that comes with a lot of these songs. Same thing with like "Silent Night." And then the other thing is like use your vibrato. Like you don't have to overdo it, but like I think finding good vibrato is a way that we can continue to open up and relax and not over enunciate things. So we have a slightly larger kind of voice shape, which means that we hollow out our sound and our vowels a little bit more, and we're trying less to sort of enunciate with the front of our face. So just think more like dopey and relaxed, like "Oh holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. So I'm thinking just telling the story, don't have to do too much here. It's important to note that a song like this, the reason it's really challenging, because, if I'm doing this in C right now, it's all the way down in a C for the low notes, which have to be tender and relaxed. And then we go all the way up an octave and then a fifth for the high notes. So it's like a wider range kind of a song. So you have different parts of your voice that you have to feel out. So the first thing, find that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. So, oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. You see, that time I got a little more of the lilt, actually helped with my resonance. As I'm trying to find that sort of nice ring. That's how I know my voice is going to be carrying more rather than like how aggressively I'm singing. So it's a weird sort of thing that you wouldn't really think about. So it keeps going, right? And it's long lay the world in sin and error pining. So I'm setting up every time I go up to one of these high notes. I'm trying to lock back up into that sweet spot. It's more about placement than it is about power. Yes, so the lilt is the time signature. So when we have something that is in like a 3-based pattern, so either it's 6/8 or 3/4, so we're like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, creates this sort of rocking sensation, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What that means is that we want our strong beats to be on the 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The other notes are actually in sort of a little lighter, so it's a little more dancey. So this is kind of what's cool about lullabies in general. And consider "O Holy Night" a very majestic lullaby. It's kind of a way that you can think about it. So when you're dealing with a lilt, it means that you want to find the words that you're emphasizing that are on the 1, and the other things you don't have to like sing into as much. So this is like when you were talking about having that like really tight abdomen. Like sometimes what I find is wrong is when people kind of sing this too aggressively and they're flexing their breath support like the entire time. They're like, "Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night." It starts to become like almost like a march. It gets too aggressive. I mean, like I can do that. Again, I might start to feel that way if I'm like in a big space. If there's like all these big sounds around me, like trumpets and organs. You start to kind of bark it out. And I just say, like, find that tenderness. I think it's helpful, especially when we get up to our high notes, so that we don't overengage and we don't fatigue ourselves too early. So when I'm thinking about soloing, I'm definitely thinking about endurance, and I'm thinking about like how I can use the music, the time signature, and the affect to my advantage in terms of my vocal technique. So all of these things like musicality, they all play into it. So I'm trying to find some of that sort of soft, delicate kind of sound, and still have vibrato. I'm still having like a full tone. So that's kind of what I mean by the lilt. And so it's in like anything that's like 3/4 or 6/8. And this "Oh Holy Night's" in a 6/8. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. You see what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of the idea. So then when I'm singing it, I'm not, "Oh, holy night." That'd be like getting the flow backwards, right? "Oh, holy night." So I'm singing into night. "Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth." Just be delicate, right? And then long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. So here's a little funny spot. Um, right, I know it's not a march, right? It's rocking, right? Here's a spot where we get one of those old sort of classical ornamentations. So I just want to point it out too. Like when we're soloing, we want to think about all of our little stylistic details, because people are focusing on you, and you want to make sure you know what you're going to do and if you like it. So here we have appeared and the soul felt it. So it does this little na na, and that's really going from like C B in this case, because the chord I'm doing here, because I'm in the key of C. At this part it's E minor, and I have this B7 chord, and so we're going felt its worth, and it's really fast. So it's felt its worth. That's sort of like the sort of pining part of it, right? The undercurrent of sadness of this like sort of like uh dark and gloomy sort of beginning. And so feeling the worth and the weight of it, uh you can kind of play with those kinds of details. It's really important to note that like we have this like common way of singing "Oh Holy Night," and if you look at like the original accompaniment, because this was an old like French carol, actually, like 1850, 40 something. And it's been done over and over again. So there's this sort of ancient kind of nature to it, or it's fairly old. So actually, the melody sometimes is different on the like old school sheet music. I tend to like I'll use the old accompaniment and then sing the typical way now, because people are always like, do you know that song? And I'll be like, do you know that song? But like, why fight that battle, right? Because it's like it was just there's different moments. So there's that one of those little things, right? So and the soul felt its worth. Right. Then we have this sort of change, right? A thrill of hope, the weary soul rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Right. So there's also the same lilt, even though we have maybe a little bit more energy and we're going to move a little bit more here. Right. So again, like it's funny, a lot of Christmas songs, especially the old school ones, will kind of do this flipping between like sad, happy kind of a feeling, or like tender, and then magnificent, tender, magnificent. So just make sure that you're switching with it rather than just singing it all like kind of like a bulldozer effect. So you have to find sort of a happy medium. Then we get to the big section. This is like the big sustains. So if you don't lock your vowel when you get to fall on your knees, this is all going to be a lot of pushing. And instead, we want to find where the resonance is so that I can kind of coast on that. So I'm trying to find that spot. Like if I'm like, fall, I want to find wherever that is. Ya, ya, while on your knees. And same thing with the E vowel. We have a lot of sustained E vowels here. You want to be careful that you don't get stuck trying to like overly articulate. Knee, knee. It has to be closer to the ah. So I do exercises, right, where I'm like, like, wah, wah, we, e, and try to keep it tall. All right, so it's fall on your knees. Oh, hear the angel voices. Oh, night divine. Oh, night when Christ was born. So there's a good example of we're singing this really intense kind of thing, and then you have to pull it back and be like, it's so delicate and sweet, and it's just a lullaby for a little baby. So first you're like, oh my gosh, this thing's to come, right? The history, and you've got the big fall on your knees. Oh, hear the angels, right? Which is always like this symbol of actually like terror a lot of the time, right? The angels are kind of like these intense supernatural beings, right? So it's like, whoa, like that's crazy. And so there's like this sort of intensity, and like that's where I could put my vibrato and my resonance into it. Those are the keys to sort of sustaining that sound. So rather than trying to push forward, I'm thinking about leaning back, finding that sort of nice lifted palate, kind of tall. Fall on your knees. Oh, hear the angel voices. Oh, night divine. Oh, night when Christ was born. Take that moment, and you can actually kind of pull off a little bit. I think when we do it too intensely there, we kind of mess with our breath recovery. So a lot of big singing, we're feeling like this sort of intensity of connection. Let yourself recover. So when Christ was born, oh night. Now here's the one, right? This type of song, right, where you have this big build and then you're going up to the first time of hitting your high note. This is just where we tend to choke up a lot. It's just because of the nature of the way we're thinking about it. Don't make a big deal about the high note, right? That's kind of that's always the way I what I tell myself in my head. And then what I would say here is when we have an octave jump, you want to just be really careful that you don't go "Deva," and like really lean into that. It's like I can do it because I okay, yes, we'll talk about this in a second because you might even notice I was making little tongue adjustments as I was singing because when we're coasting on a single vowel, uh, we're singing kind of bigger and more open. Our tongue sometimes wants to help kind of pull back and create stability. So I always sometimes, I will give my tongue a little wiggle as I'm practicing, and we just want it to be loose and like the front of the tongue by our bottom teeth. So otherwise it'll kind of get in the way and that's will cause some of the cracking that will happen sometimes. So when you do this, like if I'm, I'll just rewind for a sec. If I'm fall on your knee, while we eat, oh, hear the angel voices. We just want it to be kind of neutral. It's going to want to pull back. So just be careful about that. You can always roll your R's and like don't do that while you're actually singing. Don't be like a thrill or something like that. But you can roll your R's to kind of loosen up your tongue, like feeling under here. Fall on your knees. It's always less is more. We tend to be blocking our resonance by trying to grip down. Also change your center of gravity a little bit. Play around with moving your head from side to side. All these things help us against that sort of temptation to want to grip down. But you want it generally to be kind of soft, under enunciated, relaxed in the front. So that's an answer to how our tongue should be and what the tongue position should be. Now, as we get to this high note, right? Oh, night. Just don't overemphasize or create weight by going de. I would go oh night divine and just go divine. Go right to the high note rather than over leaning on that bottom note. It's more of an ornamentation, and then everything else has been setting up for this. So if I'm fa no divine, right? You just have it's the same, pretty much the same sort of lattice work, right? We're just slowly getting closer and closer to sort of that tall, high place. Just diva, and just go straight like that, right? I'm not pushing like straight down, like like and like try to sort of like wrench my jaw, but I just wanted to think like a very nice, tall, relaxed diva, right? Because the temptation is to use like the diphthong and go divide, and that's gonna if you get somewhere in between that, you're gonna lose the stability on the note. So just go straight to the sort of apex of the vowel, the va, diva, divine, right? And then let the last part of the word I happen at the end after you've sung through the high note. Um, so I really think of like rather than also like up and down, I just think of this area being relaxed, open, and have the space of that ah sort of ahead of time, and I just kind of sing horizontally, right? So when you try to follow it and you're like, oh, it's this high note, and you go up, that's when we tend to flinch. So it's really just kind of like staying grounded and stable, and try to sing through the high note, right? It's divine o night, right? And so those are all the kinds of things that run through my head as I'm practicing. And then when I sing it, right? But again, the temptation is to sing this very aggressively because it's like, oh no, I need to make this big moment and sing a really high note. Um, I think rather than that, like let the note is a high note, so it's going to carry more than the other notes if you're relaxed and out of the way. So really, I try to think of it as actually um, as tender as I can, right? And I don't mean like try to like pull back the volume so much, but like uh, I try to keep it a loving high note. Like that's a nice way of thinking about it. Like it's night divine. Like it's not like it's oh divine night. Right? And so again, people tend to like I think over sing it. And because they're following the sort of like grandeur of it all. And I try to like keep myself a little more neutral physically and internally. So it's just we tend to overthink our high notes a lot of the time, and I try to like not think of things getting incrementally harder. Like high notes are just harder than low notes. It's more about all the little steps I do in between to get there. That's actually where a lot of my like thinking is. Like, how am I sculpting the middle of the song? How am I finding sort of just freedom and release through like the lilt and finding good resonance on my vowels throughout the song, then the high notes just happen and are available. So yeah, this is just one of those moments of like, it's like my teacher would always say like, pick it out of the air. Like we just have to sort of get out of the way and not try to like place it so much, but just allow the note to sort of come in from the back of our head. All these things, right, that singing teachers say that it's like, what do you mean that's so challenging? It's through the practice of resonance and vibrato, these layering forces and tension release that we start to find our high notes. And really, like a high note, you should be able to just kind of pop into a high note on command. Once you've really mastered like the sensation of a note, like I should just be able to be like, I should be able to sing this delicately first, right? So if I'm not in my practice, I might be like careful about how I approach working on this piece. So like let's say G's are like a hard note for you. Like it's really just an octave jump. So you can just take a simple exercise and go lower and be like de fa va can I just kind of drop into the note? Ah, ah, ah. Can I sing it in head voice? Can I go like Deva, like nice and light? Deva, and I'm not trying to push. I'm not trying to make a big sound with my head voice, because that you might create some tension there. And then Deva, I'm paying attention to like what's trying to creep up. Like, am I trying to hold my shoulder here a little bit? Typically I'd be practicing this standing and I'd be like kind of shifting my weight a little bit, feeling like I'm like Deva, Deva. You notice like one of them was took a little more actually, and I was kind of had some weight on it. So it means maybe I'm like pressing a little bit more on this side, which is funny, right? I went to try and relax this area first. So like these are the cues that I'm paying attention to, and I'm evening them out ahead of time so that I just know what my triggers are, so to speak. So actually counterbalancing a little bit here is helpful for me. So like Deva, once you have placement, I should be able to just drop down into my breath support, create the push, and have it happen without too much muscling, right? So, Deva, ah, can I do it in head voice? Deva, ma, and the reason I'm thinking in head voice is because I can feel a little bit of the sensation or perception of where that placement is. Again, how we pilot our voice is weird. It's like this sort of like I call it like um, it's like my inner it's like it's not like an inner ear as much as a like, yeah, obviously I have an inner ear, but I'm also like my inner sort of proprioceptive map, which is like the sensation of where the vibration comes from when everything is clear and open and everything is functioning with good balance. So if there's good balance, it's disconcertingly effortless or light, which is like weird, right? So we often emotionally attach ourselves, and this is kind of my big theme and why I'm using a holy night is like we emotionally attach ourselves to like I feel something happening, so therefore I'm doing good. But that usually means that there's something that's overexerting, right? That like the engine's overheating, you're pumping with your breath support too much because something is blocked, right? Or uh, vice versa, right? Like there's various reasons why the whole system isn't quite happening. And often it's just because there's something in the way. Um, so I'm finding my placement of like, "Ah, ah," and then "Ma, ah, ah." Right, if I can do that, then I'm much gonna be much more confident about my high note. So now here I am finally at my G. I've sort of weight trained myself up. Deva, va, no, no. So like I'm trying to make my phrasing actually more even through the high note, right? So I'm actually trying to keep it like, oh no, so like fall on your knees, oh here. All of those notes I kind of want to be like tiny incremental stepping stones so that the high note doesn't feel like it's like some big extra thing, but actually a continuation of this slow build. So that it's actually not very different from the notes that I've just sung before. Because again, I think the issue people have, and myself included, is I'm like doing this thing, and all of a sudden I'm like, and like that's when we actually kind of get in the way of our voice. Our voice needs more stability, and like so when we over push stuff, it's like you've all of a sudden like lurched forward, right? And you're more likely to get out of balance. Things are going to compensate. So again, as I go through this line, fall on your knees, oh, hear the angel voices, oh, night divine, oh, night when Christ was born. Oh, night divine, oh, night, oh, night divine. We wanted to just kind of be this sort of floaty thing. Even there, like, I maybe went like I was like a smidge too big actually. So our temptation is to do too big. Um, and so that when I pushed a little bit more, my vibrato started to get wider, which took a little bit more energy to kind of keep stable, which is potentially going to happen. But just remember that like pushing more sometimes actually makes for more energy that you have to sort of manage. And so that actually will create sort of like too much. And that's when the voice can break or sort of bail out, so to speak, right? So think of it like it's like you're balancing a little cherry on top, right? And you're just trying to kind of like boom, kind of keep it right there. So it's a really good example of like a sort of a big build and sort of how our psyche or our sort of like performance energy has to sort of counterbalance the sensation of what the song is doing. Like, let the big, intense sort of feeling be for the audience. And for me, I just want to be like the conduit, sort of just like floating with it. And when that happens, then all the big sounds like the trumpet and the organ are actually like sort of like energy waves that I can surf with, not to get like too hippy dippy on it. But like when those notes are all shaking and happening in the space, you can actually just sort of like surf to those positions rather than having to pump so hard. So you can utilize the music that you're hearing to kind of sing into. And so it's more about finding the stability than it is trying to like push the sound. And that's true for any like cathedral singing in general. They're designed to catch the higher partials and carry that through the space. So we don't need to like overdo it in the ways that we would think. So this is a really great song to practice. Let's switch to something a little different. So that's like our typical classical thing. Then there's also like I really love "In the Bleak Midwinter" is another beautiful soloistic kind of a song. You're telling a story. It's a little sadder. So this part of the story, you can think like a little more hushed in your sound, a little more light mixing, and a little more straight tone. So this one, what you have to be careful with is like the vowels are all over the place. And if you haven't been singing with a lot of vowels, you might get kind of like stuck in the wrong position. So I think of it as closer to than e. So if I'm like, let's say where we're gonna sing this, like here. So Eh, you see, for me, there's kind of like it gets a little stuck between those two sometimes. So I think more towards like this is going to allow me to get better placement so that I can actually be lighter too, right? So that's kind of the main theme here. My solo voice has more space and like feature to it. It's like I just can be singing fully, but doesn't mean that I have to be like pushing hard. In fact, it's in some ways because there's you don't have other people singing with you if you're soloing. I mean, sometimes we do, but like you actually can be heard more with their fine detail, so you can actually focus more on that first. So if I'm doing this one like in the bleak midwinter. So I might think of like, where do I add my vibrato? Not everywhere, but like, in the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. So here I'm trying to um, just be like more telling the story, right, than anything else. So it's snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow. In the bleak midwinter, long ago. So you just have to kind of go with the energy that you have, right? Like with a lot of Christmas songs, there's a lot of like um style dysphoria, like as in like, is it classical? Is it um pop? Is it like a commercial Christmas thing? Like even there, like if we're doing, and I wish I could sing through more of those commercial Christmas ones, but those are the ones that are copywritten. So anything that's like jazzy Christmas or commercial Christmas, you want to think more light mix anyways too. So I think people tend to over sing for caroling. You want it to be sweet and sincere. So think more light mix than trying to be like too intense. I mean, depends. Again, if you're doing like there are these big grand ones, but a lot of the songs are more about just telling the story simply. So I think that will help a lot. Uh, yeah, yeah. So literally, like, it's funny that you mentioned that. Like, if you're singing like the Christmas song or White Christmas, that's actually more towards like the content I did recently on like crooner style singing. It's more like uh jazzy. So think like that, like light mix, and like accuracy of the half steps and sort of the tone of it and everything. I would say that that's better. Uh, oh yeah, the so yeah, in the Bleak Midwinter is like kind of underappreciated, but it's like a really simple. If you're like, okay, I want to do a Christmas solo, this is a nice one to sing because you don't have to like put all the bells and whistles. In fact, I think if you overdo it, it's too much. So again, just simple like in the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. I'm thinking warm. You might try to get like a little more of that sort of warm, relaxed chest voice kind of a thing. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow. In the bleak midwinter, long ago. So it's just like a very delicate kind of from the heart song. I really like the verse that's like, what can I give him, poor as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. Yet what can I give him? Give my heart. So it's just like nice simple song. Um, that's a great one. There's also this is a good example of there's lots of different ways to sing the lyrics, and so you just be mindful of like what lyrics you're doing and sort of how that feels on your voice. Um, yeah, so let's keep going. So here's another one. So for Silent Night, another one that often is done as like a big soloistic kind of a thing. Here is also where I really recommend using more of a light mix kind of a placement. It's a lullaby, utilizing the lilt, being very mindful of your breath control. This one you can tend to run out of breath pretty easily. And it's really about kind of landing the vowel shapes. There's a lot of like diphthongs, like silent night, bright, right? Try not to do that. Instead, silent, not, holy, not. It's funny if I speak like that, but when we're singing up in this area, you need it. So if I was like, silent night, I'm going right to those silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. So you see what I'm getting really, I'm going from each vowel that I'm sustaining to the other ones, and the other notes are just kind of in the lilt. So they're just leading to those moments of sustain. So if I'm like, it's really silent night. So I'm really just going silent night. Those are the spots, and then everything is just connecting to those. So if I'm silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild. And here we get to the spot where people get really tight. Sleep in heavenly peace. So what did I do there is I used a mix technique rather than peace and trying to like sing into it like it's like a oh holy night moment. It's the opposite. It's peace. So the way that we sing soft, right, is not by whispering, but it's by changing registration. So by the time I get up to here, I'm at this E. I can start to like effectively mix. So this is like when I do those kinds of exercises where I'm like, nani, nani, nani. I'm trying to feel that sensation of some head voice placement. You kind of can only do this by feeling them out. That's why I do these exercises, is they kind of coax me to the right position that I need. So if I'm like, wee, there's that placement of head voice. Use that to get my positioning. E, 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 e. Now I'm adding like what I consider and feel as chest voice a little bit more. Peace, peace. So that way, peace. Right. So I'm eliminating high notes being an issue because I'm thinking about them from the other direction, like coming down upon them, and being able, to effectively hit that note just out of thin air is going to make for a much more stable, easy performance. I want people to be guessing a little bit about the edge of my voice. Like they're like, I don't know where the end is. It just sounds like everything is just floating. That's going to be a better trick a lot of the time. So again, like with this song, it's like, oh, I'm singing a solo. People might like want to really over sing it. And it's like, it's supposed to be the most delicate moment and it's a lullaby. So sing it like it's a lullaby, right? Like, obviously we want to be heard. So I'm not whispering, but instead I'm singing with resonance. So, and I'm really just trying to find those moments of like, la, oh, take away all the complexity. Oh, 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 and then e, la, e, even heavenly peace. I like to go back up at the end too because it's just a big heavenly peace. Like you can do that, but if I've been singing a lot too, like it's actually easier for me to go up into the light mix than to come back down. So just because peculiarity of being a tenor, perhaps. But again, the whole concept here is trying to find and connect the dots from these sustained vowels one to the next. So by the time I get to sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Right, I can do that and be on that sort of side. Yeah. So with this one, it's also because it's more of a light mix. So I'm like I could silent night, holy night. I could sing it like that. Um, but I might tend towards maybe being a little too big. So, but like in this case, like the choice that I made was to sing it like a little more kind of straight tone, just as a contrast from like the Oh Holy Night stuff. But let's try it with vibrato, and I would just be careful where I add that sort of push of vibrato. So I might like make sure that the sort of climax of this song is about sort of being gentle. So I might like put it in the earlier parts and then just be mindful of it. So you can sing it with vibrato too. I think it's totally fine. So I might be like, silent night, holy night. But you might notice that time I was like negotiating, should I sing on the silent? I probably don't want to do that, right? I probably want to go silent night, holy night. So sometimes yeah, no, this is the whole point. So I appreciate the asking about it. I just like to have choices, right? Like I can sing without vibrato or with vibrato, depending on the effect that I want, and still sort of carry. Um, so again, like just be mindful of where you put the vibrato. When we're moving through things, sometimes vibrato can be a little sluggish or too intense and kind of drive through. When we're sustaining, it can have a different effect of dispersing pressure. So you just want to be mindful of how you're using it. It's sort of like this aerodynamics of your voice. Are you giving it like a spin and tumble? Is it a spin that's slowly relaxing, or is it a spin that's charging forward? Different choices. So silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child. So you can see, just for me, like personally, adding the vibrato makes it, I lose the like tenderness of it in the same way that I would have if I were just like silent night, just a little bit. Holy night. So I'm just kind of putting it in check. Again, when we get to this part, like sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace. Right? It's just when we add vibrato, it sort of adds a kind of different momentum that we have to be mindful of controlling. So there's that one. Another one that often happens is "What child is this?" Also cool, very old school. So for this one, we also have that I vowel, which you have to be careful about. This one is a breath control problem because it's sort of old school and the phrasing is long. So if I'm like, what child is this who lay to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping? That's a big phrase, right? So just be ready for that. That's kind of the way I think about it. Whenever I see the song, I'm like, okay, nice slow breath, and be like, what child is this who lay to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch our keeping. So you can see our temptation when we have long sort of 8-bar phrases is we tend to slow down in the middle, and we tend to want to start to relax our breath support. And you just have to make sure you kind of think over that edge. So I'm like, what child is this who lay to rest on Mary's lap is. It's to on Mary's lap is sleeping, right? Whom angels greet and anthem sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping. So keep that sort of connection. So again, like, what child is this who lay to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch our keeping. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. So if you forgot right there, you might get kind of messed up, right? You might be like, this is Christ the King, whom shepherd, right? Because it's like you're like, oh, I got through the high notes, and it's like, no, this is a breath control song, so be careful. It's a long phrase. So anyway, it's just like little things that I noticed from singing these kinds of songs. Like, so then let's try that again. So we're like, this is Christ the King, whom the shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him Lord, the babe, the Son of Mary. Whew. So when we're thinking of long breaths, thank you. Yeah. So again, like I think there's a temptation to want to be like, I have a solo and it's for a Christmas concert for my first solo that I'm doing because I'm singing in choir now and someone's given me a solo is to be like, I'm going to make this a big sing. And I think of it sort of differently. I just think of this as like an endurance test. So it's about vowel placement. It's about making sure that I know what sort of stylistic choices I'm going to make, making sure that I'm not reaching up to high notes, but actually utilizing my light mix because it's about lullabies a lot of the time, or it's storytelling. We do want a little bit of a broader shape of our sound. So even when I'm doing like in the bleak midwinter, right? Like again, like yeah, I could be singing with the mic and I could be like in the bleak midwinter, but it loses that like epicness. And we want the epicness, but we want it without pushing, restraining. So we think broad vowels like in the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan. Because there's sort of a timelessness to a lot of these songs, right? So our voice is sort of, perhaps this is a new genre of singing. It's the timeless style, which is like semi-classical, semi-light mix, sort of storytelling, lullaby style of singing. That's Christmas music for you, and that's being a soloist. And so there's the going towards the more magnificent side. There you want to be careful and actually balance it out with more of that gentle singing. And then on the other side, we have sort of like the light storytelling, and we want to be careful there that we're not singing sort of like a whisper style. So let me demonstrate like sort of what you want to be careful with, like for something like Silent Night again. If I was like, try to think soft and gentle and like, hush, I'm singing with the baby. You might make this mistake and sort of push air out by whispering, which is irritating on the voice. So being like, silent night, holy night, all is calm. It makes my voice actually less stable. And it's like blowing air through it. So it actually is more likely to make you lightheaded. And it's like you can't carry very well. There's a lot of issues with that sort of style. Whispering is very bad for the voice, actually. So again, I'm still finding resonance. And what I'm doing is I'm finding more head voice style, light mixing. Again, head and chest voice, more of a teaching metaphor. I'm still singing with generally chest voice, but I'm borrowing from that sort of feeling and sensation. So I get that higher placement of resonance. So I can be like, silent night. That that can create a breathiness, but it's through chord compression. It's a release of chord compression because we're singing more from head voice. So we're utilizing our sort of natural function actually, rather than sort of trying to push sound. So in a strange way, actually, pushing in big sing and pushing in soft singing are still both pushing, but in a different way. And you want to be careful of avoiding both, depending on what kind of sort of solo you're singing, right? So you might be doing like "O Come Emmanuel." With this one, it's kind of more Gregorian chant sort of style, right? So, O come, Emmanuel. Also thinking kind of more light mix. That's less vibrato, right? Too, as well. So, and ransom captive Israel that mourns in lonely exile here. But I'm still keeping that sort of broad vowel shape, right? So that's again that sort of epicness. Until the Son of God appear. Rejoice, rejoice. Different style, right? I could be like, rejoice, rejoice. I think it's too much. So instead, I'd be like, rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. So let there be some mystery. I think that's cool, especially if you actually are being mic'd. You can really utilize this kind of style. And it's an easy sort of crossover if you are doing more contemporary kind of style singing. So I guess my point being is like when I sing Christmas music, there's like classical Christmas. We tend to oversing it. Think about placement and resonance. We've got our sort of gothic Christmas, which is like "O Come Emmanuel," "What Child Is This?" Those are the old school, like really ancient songs. Those ones, because they borrow from that early music style, like you kind of want to be a little more towards that straight tony sound. Anyways, it kind of helps with the style. You can add vibrato for sure, but just be mindful and tactful where you put it. And that's still kind of like utilizing the sort of light mix feeling. We have commercial Christmas. Like, yes, there's like rock Christmas. Then like you can kind of even then like it's not like I don't really consider it real rock. It's commercial rock Christmas, and that's still like a light mix. It's more like almost like musical theater, kind of campy in a way. Not my favorite, but that's okay. Some of it's fun. Again, it's all fun. So even there, like you want to sing it kind of simply. You got your storytelling kinds of songs like "In the Bleak Midwinter." Same thing. We don't want small vowel shapes in terms of the tone, like we're sort of too childish. So that's my solo voice is always my full resonant chamber, but it's a matter of like how much engagement or how much I'm like utilizing resonance and vibrato versus if I'm singing into my light mix. Um, and then for stuff like Silent Night, just note that like the climax is often like a more tender thing. So think tender and light is going to be really helpful, but not whispery. Um, the list goes on. Obviously, there's tons and tons of these songs. We're just at the end here, but I wanted to hopefully give you a little bit of an insight into like the performance aspect. Appreciate this, and I hope that it's all valuable and like Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone. And we'll be back at it next year in a few weeks. It's really not that much time, but it just again, this is a time when we tend to like take stock of our voice and our performance. We tend to get really fatigued, so just have a mind for endurance. Sort of um, be strategic about how you warm up and strengthen your voice before a big sing. And just be mindful that it's really more about resonance that carries your voice rather than pushing. Um, and yeah, it's been such a pleasure to see all of you who like continually check in with me whenever I'm doing these live streams. It's awesome to have you all that taking part in it, like asking questions, developing the community. Hopefully we can get like even more people on board and we can support each other in the process of singing. And just be mindful of, it's not about high notes, it's really just about telling the story and getting into it yourself. So get into the lilt, get into the story, enjoy the sound of the vibration and resonance sort of echoing and that feedback. And those things are actually going to lead you towards better high notes rather than like I need to like show off on the high note. It's really how you get there, not the thing itself. It's the journey that counts, right? No, but it's actually really true. And so when I stopped thinking about it that way, I surprise myself, and it's a really glorious experience. And you can kind of just float with it as much as everyone else in the audience does. So um, hope that's helpful. And yeah, have a great rest of your evening. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, and I'll catch y'all in a few weeks. All right, take care, everyone. Thanks for watching, as always.